Horns up, Dusters, and welcome to the Corral. We got a great show today. Still processing what was an epic event over the weekend, the Unicorn Fart Dust meetup here in St. Louis. We learned so much about each other, about the strength of our community, and we're going to cover a little bit of that today. But we also have major news out of Solana. We'll get to that next. But first, the big takeaway from this weekend that I think all of us can agree on is that together we are stronger, and that this community continues to forge itself even during very difficult times in the market. We know, right? We know. We're 6 months old. The first 2 months we were in a very positive, bullish market for crypto. And the last 4 months have been a lot of challenging times, not just for UFD, but for the crypto market in general. But the big key takeaway that we have is the fact that our community, us, continues to forge stronger. And we are all about, will you guys help me, please? I need a little cue card you can put up there. All right, I forget, right? Because we live it. Maybe it's like having these glasses on. I forget they're on all the time. I don't know if you wear glasses or maybe a hat or whatever, and sometimes you forget that it's there. That for us as a community is good attracts good. We are good attracts good, period. Nothing else. At our core, it is our mantra. We are all about honesty, integrity, and fairness. Don't you think it's about time? Don't you just want to be treated fairly? I think that's what most all of us really want, and that's what we have. We tweet, and we treat each other with respect. But also the foundational, fundamental fact about Unicorn Fart Dust is fairness. I had no idea what I was doing, knew nothing about crypto when I started this, right? The 55-year-old almost boomer, but I did know right from wrong. And every time we got to those forks in the road, and maybe you experience that in your everyday life, guys, trust me, it's always better to make that decision with honesty and integrity at your core. It will pay off in spades in the end for us as individuals and also for us as a community. Let's take a look at this. I thought Nate put out a tweet earlier today that I thought really summed it all up. Picture of the dusters at the bar, and then, but what's more important, and that's from our friend Nate, is what he said. He said, "Good morning, family. Time to get back on the grind. It was an amazing weekend with absolutely amazing people. After meeting in person, it's so much more real. I'm all in, and I will do anything for any of you. And I mean that. We cannot fail if we stick together. Let's do this." And it's really interesting because I had already written out my show notes. Believe it or not, I have notes for these shows, okay? And I'd written at the very top, right there, at the very top. It doesn't matter. Trust me. It says, "Together we are stronger and we are changing the world." And then right before I went to go live, I saw that post from Nate. That's what we're doing, guys. It is real. Crypto is real. UFD is real. What we have is more real than any other crypto out there. There's other great cryptos, but I'll put us up against anyone when it comes to just the absolute strength of this community, and it makes us have unlimited potential. Because you know why? There's only 999 million beans, and we're filling it up day by day. We had people at the meetup that put beans in here. We have new people joining us every day, putting beans in there. What we're heading for, it just blows me away. This jug is all the UFD in the world. We keep filling up the jug, okay, and it gets up here. The jug gets almost completely full. We have a beanopoly. And when we have a beanopoly, that means there just aren't going to be as many beans available for those buttercups. And man, did we meet a lot of buttercups. Guys, girls, men, women, everyone out there, I'm telling you, the general public, the whole world is fascinated when they learn about Unicorn Fart Dust. They're fascinated, right, by our promotional card, the Duster. We had tens of thousands of people walk by us when we were at the St. Louis Cardinals baseball stadium in Ballpark Village on Friday. Everyone is fascinated with UFD. And I told you the story last night, but the old guy, Jay, who told me, right, claims he bought Bitcoin, I don't know, at $100 or $1,000 or 10, I don't forget what it was, but he was like, you're like Bitcoin. He said it to me. He said, you're like Bitcoin was at the very beginning when I bought Bitcoin. And he said he was going to buy UFD. So, Jay, if you're watching, I hope you are, welcome to the herd. And we're going to have more and more people join us. Why? Because we are all about good attracts good. I promised you big news about Solana, and our friend Koss, one of our key community members. We're all key community members, but he sent over this about Solana. Now, the reason why we want to keep such a close eye on Solana, as you all know, is that's our native token. We are based on Solana. And Solana, I don't know. Look, I can tell you this. I get a good feeling in my stomach, a good gut feeling when I think about Solana. Everything I've read about Solana over the last 6 months, as I've learned about Solana, I believe that it is going places, and that will be good for Solana-based tokens like Unicorn Fart Dust. But wait till you hear this, and then we'll talk about why it's a big deal. And we get this, and again, this was from Cause in the community. Cointelegraph says new, okay, $90 billion plus financial services giants Fiserv to launch FIUSD stablecoin and digital asset platform by year end, partnering with Circle, Paxos, and Solana to enable token payments across 10,000 banks and 6 million merchants. Need I remind you, 1 million is 1,000 times 1,000. Okay, 6 million merchants. Solana is going places. This is very good news for Solana, and will also be very good news for UFD, because as these stable coins gain more and more traction, right, more and more adoption by the general public, people will already have Solana. So when it comes to buying Solana-based cryptocurrencies, meme coins like UFD, and we are a cryptocurrency, by the way, they'll already know Solana. Look, 7 months ago, I had really no idea what Solana was. Or maybe had heard of it, right? Knew, but really, didn't really know what Solana was. When I did this, right, on that fateful Monday morning, created Unicorn Fart Dust, they're like, you're going to need to have your wallet and you're going to need some Solana. I was like, okay, right. I grabbed my leather wallet from upstairs, realized what they were talking about was a crypto wallet. And then I bought half of a Solana, because at that point, Solana was, I don't know, either $210 or $250 each. So nonetheless, people like me, newbies, buttercups, and guys, it's so crazy to realize the reason why that Solana news is so big is because only 7% of the people in the world own cryptocurrency. That's like more than 9 out of 10 people that are buttercups to cryptocurrency in general, but also buttercups to our friend Unicorn Fart Dust. One place they can buy Unicorn Fart Dust, which is super exciting, is MoonPay. They sponsor us here in the basement. Without having that alliance that we have with MoonPay, I wouldn't be able to be here right now. So thank you, MoonPay, for allowing people to convert their fiat currency into crypto. And in particular, we're a little biased here in the basement. Thank you for allowing people to buy Unicorn Fart Dust on your platform. And while we're at it, we have another sponsor, Ledger, right? The cryptocurrency hardware wallet security leader. Don't forget, guys, it's right there, right? The Ledger Flex, that's what I use, and the Ledger Live app. Look, if I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out. And learn from my mistake. Think about security before something happens. Think about security now. Check out Ledger, check out MoonPay, and thank you to both of them for sponsoring the basement. Here's some more news we're going to cover about good old UFD. What does it mean when we have the big accounts talking about UFD? This is from Whale Watch by Moby. They're like 180,000 followers on X. Coins trending on MobyScreener.com over the last hour. This was yesterday. Number 4, Unicorn Fart Dust, right? They're following us, right? We are getting attention. There's more. Let's go to the next one. Whale Watch by Moby. Again, 180,000 followers. A UFD whale just bought, so whales are buying still yesterday. Whale bought almost $10,000 worth of UFD at about a $16 million market cap. We love our whales. We call them, do you know? What do we call our whales? We call them this. Where is she? It's been a little while, huh? We love our whales. Narwhals. That's a narwhal. See the horn? That's the unicorn of the sea, right? But the important thing about UFD, narwhals, whales, we love them. They're important, no doubt about it. But all the way to the person that owns, they're our biggest holders, all the way to the people that own the smallest number of UFD beans. Everybody matters. And this is a big, and I'll tell you why. This was a big takeaway from the meetup. Several very smart people, very successful people that I talked with, both said the same thing. Day by day, by day, by day, we are converting more and more people to crypto and into unicorn fart dust. And as we get these people who are new to crypto, they're not going to be crazy traders. They're not going to be trying to flip it all the time, make a buck, scalpers, whatever you call it. Okay. These are long-term holders. We are getting older people. We're getting people from the precious metals community. We're getting younger people who've never owned crypto before. And these will be our long-term holders. What do we call those? What do we call them? Diamond hooved. They're hodlers, but they're diamond hooved, right? They have their unicorn hooves and they're going to hold on. And as day by day by day by day, those numbers grow. What we will see, right, is that jug that I showed you earlier filling up, right, with beans to a point where we can have, first we'll have a bean shortage, then we will have a beanopoly. Let's listen to what Sergey said. Do you know what Sergey said? And we'll talk about the reasons why what Sergey said is so important. Okay, this comes from Chainlink. This is Sergey Nazarov. He has 170,000 followers. Chainlink has 1.3 million. We're going to listen to the first 30 seconds and listen. Sergey says something that UFD holders need to be very, very interested in. Again, this will go for about 30 seconds.
So when I got into this industry about 15 years ago, one of the things that attracted me was the libertarian and hippie mindset of our industry. So there is a kind of wacky disregard for institutional authority that I really gravitate towards.
Listen.
And do gravitate towards still. You know, people wearing onesies and walking around in unicorn costumes with capes.
Did he just say people? Listen.
You know, people wearing onesies and walking around in unicorn costumes with capes.
Okay, he said it. Sorry about that. I shared the screen a little late, but that was the main point, right? Sergey is talking about people walking around in unicorn outfits. Who do you think he's referring to? And what he's referring to is the nature of what we are within the crypto community. But I believe, and I don't know how you feel about this, but in particular within the unicorn fart dust community, like we are people who are independent thinkers. We are people who are probably ahead of the curve, probably a little early. And I've heard it said before, sometimes being a little early can feel like you're wrong, okay? But we are willing. You have courage, right? You have this inner knowing and are willing to stand up for what you believe in. Libertarian type views is what he referred to. And I believe that I wouldn't say we're libertarians, but we are independent people, independent thinkers. And what he's talking about, these are the people that change the world, right? These are like the founding fathers of the United States of America. So sometimes when we're not just, I'm going to go to the bank with my ATM. And look, I have a bank account. Don't get me wrong. I have cash, right? US dollars. But we are also willing to have the courage to look at what is the future of storage of value. in my opinion. Now, remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't make any financial decisions based on what I'm saying. Don't adopt a puppy, buy or sell a stock, bond, mutual fund, cryptocurrency, meme coin. Don't do anything based on what I say. But I do believe that that does represent the future of storage of value, things like UFD. All right, let's move on to some funny posts. You ready for some fun, Dusters? We're going to go out here and look at 40. This is not just a funny post, it's a funny poster. Have you seen this UFD? If seen, approach slowly and then add to wallet. Welcome to the herd. Wanted. All right, for unauthorized dispersal of unicorn fart dust. UFD, Captain Ron, species, unicorn farticus, known alias, little stinker. Reward 1 million UFD. Notable features: emits cosmic rainbow gas from both ends. Approach with caution. Do not inhale. So, you guys, this is what makes UFD special. Art, right? Our memes, our community, our bonds, our shared beliefs that fairness and honesty and integrity and prosperity are the number one thing that we want to stay focused on. Here's another great piece of art. This came from Antiar K2. I thought this was cool. Hold on. I guess this is on TikTok. I don't know. Something. What do you think, huh? There we go. I like that hoodie. Got a good look to it. Okay. All right. Final thing we want to touch on when it comes to general big picture economic news. We know the situation is unfolding in the Middle East. You can watch many other mainstream media type outlets to watch that. But the world is changing, guys, right now like no other time during most all of our lives. Some of you may be a little bit older than me. I happen to be about 55 years old. And in my lifetime, we have not experienced a period of change like we are having right now. Now, to give you the reasons why and a couple things that we really need to keep an eye on. But this can change, let's say, the vehicle by which we want to preserve and grow our wealth. There's some people that are concerned about the value of the U.S. dollar going forward. Those same people, like in, let's say, 1970 that had those concerns were right, because the dollar has lost a huge amount of its money. But the big thing going on right now, and I'll tell you the reason why we're going to keep a close eye on this, is what's called the BRICS Summit. All right, this year it's in Rio de Janeiro. Wanted to make sure I had that right. BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. There's some other countries that have joined as well. Iran, let's see, what's the other? Saudi Arabia. I don't know that they are or aren't. Maybe they're not joining at this point. Ethiopia, Egypt, and in one other country. But they're having their big summit. And part of what they're going to be talking about, and there's been big speculation in the past that they would announce their own independent currency, because the US dollar dominates the world, really dominated, like up until maybe 5 or 6 years ago, world trade. But now these countries are kind of fed up with the US dollar and are talking about potentially starting their own currency that they can use amongst themselves. Some people have speculated that it might be backed up by precious metals. Who knows? But at this big conference coming up, it's on July 6th through 7th. So it is right around the corner. At minimum, what they're going to talk about is doing trade in their own currency. It used to be that like the lion's share of trade in the world was conducted with US dollars. Okay. A part of that was called the petrodollar, which meant most oil in the world was traded in dollars. And the dollar still dominates, no doubt about it. But the share has gone down and down and down because these countries are afraid of things like being sanctioned and whatnot. Now, not to get too deep in the weeds, but another side, side effect of all of this is the fact that when countries are using fewer and fewer dollars to conduct trade, that decreases the demand for the dollar. That makes the value of the dollar go down. It also decreases the demand for U.S. treasuries, because in the past, these countries would use the U.S. dollar to buy oil, sell oil. The seller would get the U.S. dollars, like, hey, what am I going to do with these? And they would buy United States Treasury. We know, think about this, that the U.S. government has record levels of debt right now. So as the world kind of changes the overall financial landscape in which things are operating and moves away from the dollar, I'm not saying the dollar is going to go away. It's going to be, not saying that. I'm not saying the dollar is going to be worthless, but I think that it's not a big stretch. And look, big people, Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan, other people have said that the value of the dollar could become worth less in time. So we're going to keep a close eye on that. That does impact cryptocurrency. That does impact precious metals. That does impact the price of things like unicorn fart dust, which are a finite asset with digital scarcity. Okay, that's the fact. That's why things like this, right? This is what I've called this an ounce of silver. See, isn't that pretty? It is pretty, right? But it's also valuable. And it's been valuable for thousands of years, thousands of years before the US dollar was invented or created or printed, invented and printed. And it will continue to be valuable. And things that are scarce and that are decentralized, right? This is not controlled by any one government. Unicorn fart dust is not controlled by any government, by any central authority. Okay. Gold is not controlled by any government, by any central authority. It's decentralized. It's DeFi. This is controlled by a central authority. It is controlled. It is not decentralized. It's controlled by the U.S. government and the United States Federal Reserve. That's why we want to keep an eye on those things as we move forward. And we know that, unfortunately, some decisions have been made over the last decades that some people say are not very favorable in terms of the future value of the U.S. dollar. Again, I'm not saying, run for the hills, the dollar's going to be worthless. And, some people say that. I'm not one of those. But when we look at where we want on a longer term basis to store our value, I think we need to be aware of what's happening in regard to that. There is one key factor that will continue to support the number one thing that will on a long-term basis create value within the unicorn fart dust community. That's our community, right? But what's the one thing? Together. Nate said it in his post. I actually had already written it down on my show notes. There is no other community that sticks together like UFD. And the fact that we're going through a challenging time is normal. Is it fun? Heck no, right? And all of crypto, all the altcoins, all the meme coins are going through challenging periods. But it gives us an opportunity to grow in strength. And that's exactly what you are doing every day. Thank you for joining me down here in the basement. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Okay. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. You are always welcome, right, to join me here, us right now. It's me and you and thousands of other people who are going to watch this. You're important. Take good care of yourself. Be good to yourself. You deserve it. And I'll see you next time.